Hi, welcome to Reading Public Library's Winter Warmers Extreme Cozy Edition. I'm Andrea Fiorillo, Head of Research and Reader Services at the library. Today, we are going to be spotlighting genre fiction from mysteries and thrillers to sci-fi and fantasy. Today, we're going to start with Lauren. Lauren, can you please tell us what's good and what's new?
Hey, I'm Lauren. Today I'm going to talk about a book called Leave the World Behind. It's by Rumaan Alam. This book is labeled thriller suspense, but you won't see the typical story arc of a thriller. It's much more of a character-driven than plot-driven. So if you're looking for that typical experience, it's not quite that, but it's definitely thrilling and suspenseful. It was highly anticipated by the literary community, and I totally understand why. I tore right through it. It's incredibly gripping, and I couldn't wait to finish it. Family embarks on a summer vacation to the Hamptons to get away from the city, and they soon realize that they get a lot more removed from their normal lives than they had planned. On the second night of their getaway, there's a knock on the door of their rental house, and a stranger reveals that there's been a mysterious global disaster. While the reader learns bits and pieces of the outside world and what's happened, the characters are largely left to speculate on what's going on. And through that, we learn more and more about the characters' inner lives. It's a very atmospheric story, and it will have you wondering what actions you would take in the same situation. So I highly recommend. And again, this is called Leave the World Behind. Next up, we have Eileen.
Thank you, Lauren. I have tried several times to describe Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, and each time I get lost in the explanation, but I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it and I found the writing excellent. I listened to it on CD and the audio version was great. So I am going to read a description that I found on the website gravesaver.com. And in this case, it was a great book talk saver. Cloud Atlas consists of 6 interconnected stories, beginning with the voyage through the South Pacific in the 19th century and ending in a primitive post-apocalyptic Hawaii. Each story is a complete tale within itself, yet the true significance lies in the connection between each of them, forming a collective whole. The stories are vastly different in style, plot, and perspective, starting with a strong-willed journalist in 1970s California to a primitive youth surviving in the post-apocalyptic world. No 2 stories are set. I made a little mistake there. The story actually starts with an explorer, I'm sorry, in the 19th century, to a primitive youth surviving in a post-apocalyptic war. No 2 stories are set in the same location, ranging from the English countryside to a futuristic Korea. And each story segues into the next through character connections via letters, books, films, etc. But the main characters never meet, although they are eternally linked through the human condition. This is the 3rd novel of David Mitchell. It was published in 2004 and it's fantastical speculative fiction. It has won a number of awards and was shortlisted for several other awards. I do recommend it, even though it's a little difficult to describe. And now I'd like to introduce Desiree Sicko.
Hi. So today I'm going to talk about Mexican Gothic. I'm a sucker for a beautiful book jacket and Gothic fiction, so I couldn't wait to settle in with this book. What I most enjoyed, though, is the wonderful main character, Noemi. She's a 1950s era Mexican socialite with a killer wardrobe, smarts, and she's nobody's fool. An extremely unsettling letter from her beloved newly married cousin sets the plot in motion. Noemi is dispatched by her father to make sure all is well and report back. Set in a remote jungle mining region of Mexico, this story more than delivers on its Gothic promise. We've got a moldering house, gloomy weather, bad dreams, and a family in physical and moral decay. The prose is luscious. But there's horror here. It creeps up on Noemi and you like something out of H.P. Lovecraft. It's tinged with the dark legacies of colonialism, racism, and eugenics. The story's pace picks up steadily. For me, I couldn't put it down, reading it much later than I should. This is a modern Gothic horror mix that will pull you in with deep chills and really great characters. And next, I'll talk about The Searcher by Tana French. You can count me in as a true fan of Tana French's previous novels about the Dublin murder squad. I really love the characters, their struggles, the mysteries, and the gritty world of modern Ireland. Her latest novel, however, is a standalone. It's a departure both in characters and setting. In The Searcher, we get Cal, a veteran of the Chicago Police Department. Cal's retired, and he purchased a decrepit old house to fix up in the rural west of Ireland. He's looking for peace and quiet and good fishing. The village community he's landed in is both tight-knit and gossipy/nosy. The pacing of this book is as methodical as Cal's home renovations. Of course, trouble finds its way to Cal's door in the form of Trey, a wayward teenager with a missing person mystery. Cal can't look away. His professional and moral instincts kick in. This is an unusual police procedural novel. Cal is a fish out of water in the community. He has no authority and he's on his own. It's really gratifying to see Cal get under the surface of the village society, to understand Trey and come to terms with what he left back in Chicago. While this is very different from French's other novels, I really enjoy the change of pace and scenery in The Searcher. And now I'd like to hand it over to Suzanne.
Well, I'm going to bet that you might not know there is a perfectly charming Airbnb right here in the town of Reading, decorated with a Sherlock Holmes theme. And that's where I happened to be when I read this book by Catherine Addison called The Angel of the Crows. This began life as a sort of a Sherlock Holmes fan fiction, and then it morphed into something wonderfully more creative and fantastical. And you can imagine, if you will, an 1880s London where humans walk the street alongside angels and other assorted supernatural creatures under a truce. Victorian detective work here is performed by an angel whose name is Crow, and his assistant, a wounded and deeply troubled doctor named Doyle. And if you're a fan of Arthur Conan Doyle's stories or of Benedict Cumberbatch's TV series Sherlock, you will find familiar stories tricked out with a wickedly delicious new spin. There's even an appearance by Jack the Ripper. And Catherine Addison is a pseudonym for author Sarah Monette, whose fantasy novels I have loved for a long time. Here is a story called The Distant Dead. This is by Heather Young, and I would say this is a ripping good story that combines a contemporary mystery set in small-town Nevada with detailed character studies of complicated, troubled people who all need some kind of redemption. And to the author's credit, most of the characters find what they need at the end, while a really twisty plot just pulls us along irresistibly. The main character here is an orphaned 11-year-old boy named Sal. He finds himself in a world of trouble and he doesn't know who to trust. One person who tries to help him is a shambling math teacher, and he's found dead at the start of the story. And then there's Nora Wheaton, a social studies teacher who's been trying without luck to get out of this small town of her youth. There's some very clever interplay with Sal's graphic novel Superheroes. Alongside the stories, he learns about the ancient peoples who used to live there and the lessons that the boy finds from both sources. I would say this is a tale of grief, secrets, lies, and the way people struggle with their burdens. And there is a resolution that seems just right. Well done, Heather Young. This is a terrific read. And here is a book title that may sound familiar to all you folks who were big fans of Louise Penny's Inspector Gamache, but this is not that still life. This one is by Val McDermid, and if you have not already discovered Scotland's Queen of Crime, this one is an excellent stepping stone into the work of an author who could keep you busy for a lot more months of a pandemic. Val McDermid has written 30 different books and more than 4 different crime series, and this particular one is the latest in her series about Karen Peary, the Detective Chief Inspector of Scotland's Historic Cases Unit, which is what we would call the Cold Cases Squad. It's both a police procedural and a fine tour of contemporary Scotland, and it's all done up with the author's typically tight plotting, clear prose, and spot-on characterizations. In this one, Karen has more than one case to manage. There's a drowned man who's turned up in a different district, but Karen gets called in because it relates to a missing persons case from years before. There's also a case of art forgery, and there's a skeleton in a camper van that has to be dealt with. And through it all, we get to spend time with a detective, both Thrawn and Gallus, and that's stubborn and bold to those of us from away. And she knows the importance of coffee and cake to the proper running of a case. The characters are vivid. This particular series is never grisly. It's a terrific introduction to an excellent author. And now we can find out what Allison has to tell us about.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison. And the first book I want to talk to you about is The Companions. It doesn't show up really well on the screen, but the book is fascinating. It's a quick, easy sci-fi read, and that's my genre. That's what I love to read. It's about post-apocalyptic California, and as people recuperate from a virus, so it sounds like a familiar theme, and that has ravaged the country. And this is Katie Flynn's debut novel, so it's really a wonderful first attempt. In this story, a computer program has been developed that lets people download or upload their consciousness to an android or robotic body. And these people are called the companions. The trouble is that they have to give up their free will. They have to take commands. And the twist is it also depends on how much your family can afford. If you come from a rich family, they can get you a beautiful body that actually looks human. But many, many families, in a desperate attempt to save their loved ones, can only afford maybe a rolling tin can with a claw for a hand, a mechanical hand. So this story starts and weaves through the character of 16-year-old Lilac, whose family uploads her into one of those cheapo tin can bodies when she's murdered by a high school classmate. Unfortunately, they can't afford to keep her, so they sell her to a family to be a companion for a teenage daughter. But even though none of the companions are supposed to have free will, Lilac gradually begins to realize that she doesn't have to obey commands and she can do what she wants. So she is unhappy and she runs away and goes on a search for the woman who killed her. In her rebellion, we follow her over the years. She is able to change bodies and does come into human form. And the story is beautifully written, just easy to read, a fast, nice read, told from 8 different interconnecting points of view. Some of them are humans, some of them are companions, and they explore love and revenge and loneliness. As the companions in this decaying world realize that the people who can fix them and keep them going are no longer going to be around and no one will be able to repair them. And therefore they know that they have a limited time and they're going to become extinct. They're going to expire. It's a really fun read. I highly recommend Katie Flynn's First Attempt. The next 2 books I want to talk about are more magical fiction, fantasy. I'm going to call them sci-fi because they're set in an alternate world from what we're used to. And I just really want to shout out Carol Emshwiller. I even love saying her last name. She is not a new author. And I'm going to start with Report to the Men's Club, which is how I discovered her, written in 2002. Amazon said, this is a series of short stories And here are the premises that Carol Emshwiller talks about. What if the world ended on your birthday and no one came? Or what if you were raised by a grandmother who was a superhero? Or what if you were charged with raising an orphan who was really a top secret weapon and you knew that, and he looked like Godzilla, but he loved when you snuggled him and read nursery rhymes? Or what if poet laureates are the ones who fought to the death with their words in stadiums? So she has a collection of these marvelous short stories about women and men and monsters and obsessions and art and falling in love. And the insights are shared through insanely beautiful writing. I picked up her book, and the first sentence, I was like taking a deep breath. She writes so beautifully. And it's in a way that will have you thinking and comparing and rereading to grasp the full meaning of each scenario. And you know what? Boy, you'll find a bit of yourself in every story. I couldn't stop reading Carol, so I immediately picked up Carmen Dog, which is a 1988 earlier novel. But this is a feminist, fantastic satire, mixes elements of Animal Farm and The Handmaid's Tale. And she just has a canny and hilarious insights into the damaging sex role stereotypes of both men and women. Without explanation, this is how the book starts, as to why or how the story takes you into a world where women are turning into animals and animals are turning into women. And the men are in the background, shocked and confused. And how they react is very fascinating. The story follows Pooch, a golden setter, who is turned into a beautiful woman, or is turning into a beautiful woman, although she still maintains her canine traits of loyalty and nurturing. Her former owner turns into a vicious snapping turtle and bites the baby, and Pooch panics and snatches the baby and runs away to protect it. Meanwhile, the men are desperately trying to figure out what's going on. And some of them do horrible medical experimentation, and some of them turn these women into slaves or women of passion. And Pooch, going through all these experiences, her goal is to protect this baby. But along the way, she stumbles into an opera hall and discovers that what she really wants to do with her life is to sing in the opera Carmen. You will absolutely adore Carol Emshwiller's writing style and the stories. And now I want to pass it on to Melissa.
Hello. I first would like to talk about the book When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. And When No One Is Watching has all of the suspense and twists and turns that you would expect from a thriller, but it also uses the tension surrounding the topic of gentrification to ramp up the suspense to the next level. Main character Sydney is understandably disturbed by how many of her old neighbors are leaving the neighborhood where she grew up. Or are they disappearing? Other main character, Theo, moved into the house across the street from Sydney and is learning the ins and outs of being a good ally. They are both very sympathetic characters, while also, of course, having dark secrets. It's an absolute blast going along for the breakneck ride as they both navigate their own demons and work together to solve the insidious mystery. Bonus, there's a list of resources in the back of the book if you'd like to learn more about the topics that are touched upon. And next we have The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. If you want to experience a murder story where a group of people are snowed in together and thus one of them must be the murderer, I'd usually say fly to London and go see a performance of The Mousetrap written by Agatha Christie, but since that's not possible right now, why not give The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley a try? A group of friends, are they really friends? Get snowed in at a lodge in the remote Scottish Highlands and someone turns up dead. With red herrings abound and everyone having a motive and a mysterious past, The Hunting Party is a modern take on the classic style of locked room mystery. The multiple points of view slowly reveal secrets about each of the other characters, and these clues will keep you turning the pages. Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi is a delightful little book. There's a cafe in Tokyo where you can time travel, but only for as long as it takes for your cup of coffee to get cold. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a very small scale book. The whole thing takes place within the cafe and features a colorful cast of cafe workers and cafe regulars, including one ghost. No, really, she's the ghost. Don't try to take her seat or she'll curse you. It's a little book of little moments that turn out to be exceptionally meaningful. Bittersweet yet positive, emotional, but decidedly laid back. If you're looking for a gentle exploration of emotions, give this quirky book a try. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. The Echo Wife is a domestic thriller and then some. Award-winning scientist Evelyn Caldwell finds out that her husband Nathan is having an affair with Martine, who is a clone of Evelyn. Nathan ends up dead, and in order to protect her reputation, Evelyn reluctantly works with Martine to cover it up. But by covering it up, are they entangling themselves hopelessly in more problems? And just how far will they go? The plot zigs and zags with copious surprises around every corner. The characters' morals and ethics are extremely gray, making it difficult to decide who to root for, but at the same time, it is very easy to become invested in everyone's fate. This chilling genre-bending book will appeal to both fans of domestic thrillers and near-future science fiction. It will be available in February, but you can place a hold in the online catalog today. So let me just say, if you are a fan of Stephen King, well, Stephen King is a fan of Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm going to use his words here because he describes this book perfectly. He says that it is the best fantasy novel that I've read in years because it is about real people. Bardugo's imaginative reach is brilliant, and this story, full of shocks and twists, is impossible to put down. Ninth House is a tense murder mystery that is built around the premise that Yale University's secret societies actually practice dangerous and dark magic. Alex Stern is a fish-out-of-water protagonist who has been accepted to Yale not because of her academic prowess, but because of her unique and secret ability to see ghosts. She becomes embroiled in a murder investigation and keeps getting sucked deeper into the dark world of academia, which is dangerous in a supernatural way, and more disturbingly, in ways that are completely mundane. Even if you don't usually read fantasy, this book could very well be for you if you like dark, suspenseful mysteries featuring well-realized characters and a protagonist who sojourns on despite having a traumatic past. And lastly, I'd like to talk about A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. This book reads like a well-crafted political spy thriller. It is a perfectly balanced blend of everything that makes for an excellent book. Wonderfully realized characters that are brimming with life, a gripping plot that moves at lightning speed, and outstanding yet accessible prose. It also does what science fiction is so good at doing. It takes certain ideas and issues from the past and present and reimagines them and explores them from angles that might help you to see things in a different light. It was awarded the 2020 Hugo Award for Best Novel. Wow, it is so deserving of that honor. Arkady Martine herself will be virtually visiting the Reading Public Library to discuss science fiction, A Memory Called Empire, and its sequel out on March 2nd, A Desolation Called Peace. Even if science fiction isn't your usual genre of choice, don't be intimidated. Give this political spy thriller that just happens to take place on a different planet with lots of advanced technology that's not too different from our own a try. And join Arkady Martine at 7 p.m. on March 25th to learn more about science fiction and the amazing world that she has built in her books. If you're looking for a sense of reading community, why not try joining one of the book clubs here at the Reading Public Library? Andrea, do you want to tell us some more about those?
Yes, I just threw up in the chat the link to our calendar. We do have 3 specific book groups, the RPL book group that's open to everyone, and it's led by whoever wants to lead it. So we need you. Melissa helps coordinate it. We have the Pints and Pages book group, which is specifically for younger adults, 20 and 30-year-olds, and Lauren helps lead that group. And finally, we have the Pleasant Street book group, which in non-COVID times meets at the Pleasant Street Senior Center. And Eileen leads that book group. So I hope you found something you want to read today. Be in touch and tell us what your favorites are. Join a book group if you're feeling like the reading world is lonely right now. And we'll see you soon.